All right, folks, picture this. A cosmic visitor older than our entire solar system is hurtling toward us at 60 kilometers per second. That's fast enough to cross the entire United States in about 1 minute. Now imagine this thing is 1,000 times more massive than Oumuamua, the first interstellar object we ever discovered. And here's where it gets absolutely bonkers. It's doing things that shouldn't be physically possible. It's leaking water like a broken fire hydrant in a place where comets are supposed to be frozen solid. It's got a tail pointing the wrong direction, completely defying solar radiation pressure. And one of Harvard's most prominent astrophysicists just published a paper saying there's a 30 to 40% chance it's not natural at all. Yeah, you heard that right. Not natural. As in, potentially artificial. Welcome to the wildest space controversy of 2025. I'm your host, and today we're diving deep into 3I Atlas, the interstellar object that has scientists at Harvard and the SETI Institute in a full blown academic brawl. This is going to get weird, so strap in. But before we jump into this cosmic drama, I need to ask you something, and I promise I'm not just being needy here. If you're enjoying this content, if you appreciate that we're out here digging through dense scientific papers at 2 in the morning, translating complex astrophysics into something you can understand while eating your breakfast, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Here's the deal. Bringing you this kind of content isn't just about passion, though trust me, we've got plenty of that. There's a real financial cost involved. We use artificial intelligence tools to help us hunt through mountains of research papers, cross reference data from NASA, ESA, and observatory archives around the world, and make sure we're giving you the most accurate, up to date information humanly possible. That AI stuff? It costs real money every single episode. So when you like, subscribe, comment, share, all of that, you're literally helping us keep the lights on and the content flowing. You're helping us continue researching and bringing you the wildest, most mind blowing space news on the internet. And honestly, that means the absolute world to us. All right, enough sappy stuff. Let's talk about an interstellar object that's currently breaking every rule in the cosmic playbook. So let's set the stage. July 1st, 2025. The Atlas survey, that's the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, spots something moving through our solar system. Now, Atlas spots stuff all the time. That's literally its job. But this thing? This thing was different. First red flag, speed. This object was hauling at nearly 60 kilometers per second relative to the sun. That's about 134,000 miles per hour. You could fly from New York to Los Angeles in less than 2 minutes at that speed. But speed alone doesn't make you special in space terms. What made astronomers' jaws physically drop was the eccentricity. The orbital eccentricity of 3I Atlas came in between 6.1 and 6.2. Now, if you're not a space nerd, here's what that means in plain English. Any eccentricity above 1.0 means the object is not gravitationally bound to our sun. It came from somewhere else, and after its little tour through our neighborhood, it's leaving. Forever. It's an interstellar visitor. Only the third one we've ever confirmed. The first was One-Eye Oumuamua back in 2017. Remember that weird cigar-shaped thing everyone thought might be an alien probe? The second was 2-Eye Borisov in 2019, which turned out to be way more boring, just a normal comet from another star system doing normal comet things. But 3-Eye Atlas? Oh, this one decided to show up and absolutely wreck our understanding of what interstellar objects should look like. Here's where things get absolutely bonkers. In late September 2025, scientists using data from the Hubble Space Telescope and ground based observations made a discovery that sent shockwaves through the astronomy community. 3I Atlas is massive. And I don't mean, oh, it's a bit bigger than we thought, massive. I mean, this thing weighs over 33 billion tons, massive. Let me say that again because it's genuinely insane. 33 billion tons. To put that in perspective, Avi Loeb, the Harvard astrophysicist we're going to talk about way more in a minute, calculated that 3I Atlas is somewhere between 1,000 to 100,000 times more massive than Oumuamua. 1,000 to 100,000 times. That's not a margin of error, folks. That's a completely different category of object. The diameter? More than 3.1 miles across. That's about 5 kilometers. Some estimates from Hubble put it closer to 4.6 kilometers. For context, imagine Manhattan Island floating through space. That's basically what we're dealing with here. A Manhattan sized chunk of ice and rock that came from another star system, and it's currently tearing through our cosmic neighborhood at breakneck speed. But wait, it gets weirder. Way weirder. Because size is just the beginning of the story. In early October 2025, the NASA Swift Observatory detected something that shouldn't be possible: water. Not just a little bit of water either. 3i Atlas is spewing water at a rate of 40 kilograms per second. Scientists at Auburn University, led by Dennis Bodwitz and Zishi Xing, published their findings in the Astrophysical Journal Letters on September 30th, and their description is absolutely perfect. They said the comet is leaking water like a fire hose running at full blast. 40 kilograms per second is a lot of water, folks. For comparison, a typical garden hose puts out about 10 to 15 liters per minute. This thing is dumping 88 pounds of water into space every single second. Now you might be thinking, okay, that's a lot of water, but it's a comet, right? Comets are made of ice. They leak water when they get close to the sun. That's literally what comets do. And you'd be absolutely right, except for one tiny little problem. 3i Atlas was 3 times farther from the sun than Earth, is when Swift detected this water activity. Let me explain why that's such a big deal. Comets typically don't become active until they cross what's called the frost line, which is roughly around the orbit of Mars. Before that point, they're supposed to be frozen solid, dead, inactive, nothing happening. You might get a tiny bit of carbon monoxide sublimating at extreme distances, but water? Water requires heat. Water requires the sun's energy to vaporize ice into vapor, and at 3 astronomical units, there just shouldn't be enough solar energy to do that. But 3A Atlas doesn't seem to care about what should or shouldn't be happening. It started leaking water way earlier than any comet we've ever observed, interstellar or otherwise. The Swift Observatory detected hydroxyl, which is the chemical signature OH, the smoking gun for water vapor. They detected it in July and August 2025, when the comet was still incredibly far from perihelion. And that's not the only chemical weirdness going on here. In late August 2025, astronomers using the Keck 2 telescope in Hawaii with the Keck Cosmic Web Imager captured spectral data that revealed something absolutely mind-bending. 3i Atlas is spewing nickel. A lot of nickel. Specifically, nickel in the form of nickel emissions in its coma, the fuzzy cloud of gas and dust surrounding the nucleus. Now, nickel in comets isn't unheard of. We've seen it before in other comets. But here's the kicker: there's no iron. None. Zero. Zilch. Nada. In every other comet we've ever observed, including 2I Borisov, the second interstellar comet, nickel and iron show up together because they're chemically linked. They form together in stellar environments. They travel together. They're like cosmic buddies. But 3A Atlas? It's got nickel but no iron, and that makes absolutely no sense according to our current understanding of comet chemistry. Avi Loeb, who we'll get to in way more detail shortly, pointed out something fascinating in a post summarizing these findings. He noted that this kind of nickel without iron situation is only known to exist in industrially produced nickel alloys on Earth through something called the carbonyl chemical pathway. This is a process used in industrial nickel refinement where you create and then decompose nickel tetracarbonyl. It's a human industrial process. And now we're seeing what looks like the same chemical signature in an interstellar comet. The researchers who made the discovery suggest that maybe, just maybe, there's a natural version of this process happening near the nucleus of 3I Atlas, creating a concentrated plume of nickel through some exotic chemistry we don't fully understand yet. But the fact that it even remotely resembles an industrial process, that's raised a lot of eyebrows in the scientific community. The Keck observations also mapped out the chemical distribution in the coma, showing nickel emissions extending out to about 600 kilometers and cyanide, yes, cyanide, reaching out to about 840 kilometers. They calculated that the comet is losing about zero point 0.9 grams per second of nickel and 3.9 grams per second of cyanide, with a total mass loss rate of close to 150 kilograms per second. That's a lot of material. Comets lose mass. That's normal, but this rate is unusually high, and the composition is just bizarre. Data from the James Webb Space Telescope earlier this year showed that 3I Atlas is about 87% carbon dioxide, 9% carbon monoxide, and only 4% water. Most comets in our solar system are the exact opposite. They're mostly water ice with some carbon dioxide mixed in. This thing is basically an inverted comet, chemically speaking. And then there's the tail situation. Oh boy, the tail situation. In mid October 2025, observations confirmed what astronomers had been suspecting for weeks. 3I Atlas has developed an anti solar tail. For those of you who aren't tail experts, let me explain why this is absolutely bonkers. Comet tails are formed by solar radiation pressure and the solar wind pushing material away from the nucleus. The tail always points away from the sun. Always. That's like Comet Physics 101. The sun pushes stuff away, so the tail goes in the opposite direction. Simple, right? Well, 3I Atlas decided that rule is for losers. It's got a tail structure pointing toward the sun, an anti-solar tail. The Keck data from August 24th confirmed this, showing nickel and cyanide emissions extending in both the solar and anti-solar directions. And here's another weird thing. There's no visible dust tail in white light images. Most comets have a bright, obvious dust tail because sunlight reflects off the dust particles. But 3I Atlas? No dust tail, just gas. Just these weird chemical emissions going in directions they shouldn't be going. So let me recap where we are so far, because this is a lot. We've got an interstellar object that's 1,000 times more massive than Oumuamua. It's leaking water way too early. It's got nickel without iron, which resembles an industrial refining process. It's got a backward tail. It's chemically inverted compared to normal comets. And it passed within 30 million kilometers of Mars in early October, where the European Space Agency's ExoMars Trace Gas Orbiter and Mars Express spacecraft managed to capture images during what they described as a very challenging series of observations. Unfortunately, we haven't seen the highest resolution images yet because NASA's HiRISE camera on the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter captured even better shots, but they haven't been released due to the US government shutdown. Classic timing, right? Now, with all these anomalies piling up, you can probably imagine that scientists are having some very intense discussions about what exactly 3I Atlas is. And this is where things get spicy. Enter Avi Loeb, the Frank B. Baird Jr. Professor of Science at Harvard University and the head of the Galileo Project, which is specifically dedicated to searching for evidence of extraterrestrial technological civilizations. In July 2025, Loeb and his team published a paper with a title that made headlines around the world. Is the interstellar object 3I Atlas alien technology? Not exactly subtle. In this paper, Loeb lays out a statistical and physical argument for why 3I Atlas might not be a natural object. And before you roll your eyes and think this is just clickbait science, hear me out. Loeb's arguments are based on real data and probability calculations, even if his conclusions are controversial. Loeb's first major point is about the trajectory. 3I Atlas has passed unusually close to three major planets in our solar system: Mars, Venus, and Jupiter. He calculated the probability of a random interstellar object happening to pass that close to all three planets purely by chance. The number he came up with? 0.005%. That's 5 in 100,000. Extremely unlikely. Now, does that mean it's definitely artificial? No. Unlikely things happen all the time in a universe with trillions of objects flying around. But it's suspicious enough to raise questions. Loeb also points out that 3I Atlas could theoretically perform what's called a solar Oberth maneuver, which is a technique spacecraft used to change velocity by swinging close to a massive object. If you are an advanced civilization sending a probe to explore another star system, you might design it to use gravity assists to slow down and gather data. Is that what's happening here? We don't know, but it's not impossible. Loeb gives 3I Atlas a 30 to 40% probability of being non-natural. That's not a fringe number. That's saying there's a real, Measurable chance this thing could be artificial. He's even used the term Trojan horse to describe the possibility that 3I Atlas could be an object designed to look natural, but actually be something else. He's referenced the dark forest hypothesis, a concept from science fiction that suggests advanced civilizations might disguise their technology to avoid detection by potentially hostile neighbors. Now, is Loeb saying 3I Atlas is definitely an alien probe? No. He's very careful to frame this as a hypothesis that needs testing. But he's also very clear that we shouldn't dismiss the possibility just because it sounds like science fiction. And this is where the scientific brawl begins. Because not everyone in the astronomy community is on board with Loeb's interpretation. In fact, a lot of scientists think he's jumping the gun. On October 9th, 2025, researchers from the SETI Institute published a paper titled Updated Trajectory and Spectral Insights into 3I Atlas, a definitive case for natural astrogeological origins. The title alone is basically a scientific mic drop. This paper is a direct response to Loeb's claims, and it does not pull punches. The SETI team argues that all of the observed anomalies can be explained by natural processes. The early water activity? Maybe the comet has a different internal structure that allows subsurface ice to sublimate earlier than expected. The nickel without iron thing? Could be the result of unusual chemical fractionation during the comet's formation in a different stellar environment. The antisolar tail? Possibly explained by complex gas dynamics we don't fully understand yet, but are still entirely natural. The SETI researchers essentially say, look, weird doesn't mean artificial. The universe is full of weird stuff. Just because we don't have a perfect explanation for every single anomaly doesn't mean we should jump straight to alien technology. They point to 2I Borisov, the second interstellar comet, which also had some unusual characteristics, but turned out to be completely natural. They argue that 3I Atlas is just a very unusual comet from a very different stellar environment, and as we study more interstellar objects, we'll probably find all kinds of weird chemistry and behavior that challenge our models. That's how science works. You find something weird, you study it, you update your models. You don't immediately assume it's aliens. So who's right? Well, that's the billion-dollar question, isn't it? And here's the beautiful, frustrating thing about science. We don't know yet. Both sides have valid points. Loeb is right to point out that the statistical improbability of 3I Atlas's trajectory and its multiple anomalies are worth investigating seriously. Science has been wrong before by dismissing possibilities too quickly. History is full of examples where the scientific consensus was dead wrong because people refused to consider unconventional explanations. On the other hand, the SETI team is also right to emphasize that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and right now, we don't have smoking gun proof of artificial origin. We have anomalies. Lots of them. But anomalies aren't the same as proof. Theoretical physicist Michio Kaku has weighed in on the 3I Atlas situation as well, and his take is characteristically measured, but open-minded. Kaku has pointed out that we're living in an era where the discovery of extraterrestrial technology is not just science fiction anymore. It's a legitimate scientific question. With thousands of exoplanets discovered, many inhabitable zones, and with our own technology advancing to the point where we could theoretically detect technosignatures from other civilizations, the idea that we might encounter an interstellar probe is not absurd. It's statistically plausible. Kaku has described 3I Atlas as a cosmic wildcard, something that doesn't fit neatly into our existing categories, and therefore deserves serious, rigorous investigation without prejudice. He's essentially saying, let's not assume it's aliens, but let's also not assume it's not. Let's just follow the data. And that's really where we are right now. The data is piling up and it's confusing. 3I Atlas is approaching its perihelion, the closest point to the sun, on October 29th and 30th, 2025. That's just 12 days from today. When it reaches perihelion, it's going to be at peak activity. Whatever this thing is made of, whatever's causing these anomalies, we're about to see it at maximum intensity. Observatories around the world are locked in, ready to capture every possible data point. The European Space Agency's JUICE mission is planning observations in November. NASA's Juno spacecraft is scheduled to image it in March 2026. The Vera C. Rubin Observatory is expected to find many more interstellar objects in the coming years with its legacy survey of space and time. And when that happens, we'll finally have a population of these things to compare. Right now, we're working with a sample size of 3. That's not enough to draw firm conclusions about what's normal and what's not for interstellar visitors. But here's what we do know: 3i Atlas is forcing us to confront the limits of our knowledge. It's showing us that interstellar objects are far more diverse and complex than we imagined. Whether it's natural or artificial, and my money is still on natural because that's statistically way more likely, it's teaching us something profound about the universe. If it's natural, it's teaching us that planetary systems around other stars can produce chemistry and structures we've never seen before, which has huge implications for understanding planet formation, stellar evolution, and the diversity of cosmic environments. If, and this is a big if, it turns out to be artificial, well, that changes everything. That means we're not alone. That means intelligence is out there, building things, sending things, exploring. Either way, we win. Either way, we learn something incredible. So, what should you take away from all this? First, 3i Atlas is real, it's big, it's weird, and it's happening right now. Second, scientists are genuinely divided on what it means, and that's actually a good thing. That's how science is supposed to work. You have competing hypotheses, you gather data, you test, you argue, you refine. Third, we're about to get a lot more data in the next few weeks as this thing hits perihelion, and that data will help resolve some of these questions. And fourth, whether you're Team Natural Comet or Team Alien Probe, this is one of the most exciting astronomical events of the decade, and you're here watching it unfold in real time. Before we wrap up, I want to remind you one more time. If you found this video valuable, if you learned something, if you're as obsessed with this story as we are, please hit that like button and subscribe. It genuinely helps us continue doing this kind of deep dive research and bringing you the latest space news with the level of detail and accuracy you deserve. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think. Do you think 3i Atlas is just a weird comet, or is there a chance Abulobe is onto something? I genuinely want to hear your thoughts. And as always, keep looking up, keep questioning, and keep being curious, because that's what this is all about. We're living in an era where the universe is revealing its secrets faster than ever before, and we get to be part of that story. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one when we hopefully have even more data on this cosmic mystery. Stay curious, space nerds.